Welcome back to the Barbarian Show, Barbarians. This week, I get the distinct honor of bringing you one of my friends, Paul Bourgeois. Paul, my man, I'm actually really excited to get to chat with you. First off, I want to tell you thank you. It's super important to me to support our first responders, our fire, our police, our military veterans. And dude, you have the quite the background in firefighting. It sounds like from what our mutual friend Tyler has told me.
Yeah.
You care to share your story a little bit, Paul? I want to dive
Sure.
right in here.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, I had a great 25-year career in the fire service. It was fantastic. These were just, some of the greatest years of my life, and the fire service allowed me to do everything I wanted to do. So I had a very diverse career over those 25 years. I moved from New York to Arizona in 1989. And I came out to Arizona to go to my mom had taken me to Arizona to Phoenix, and actually just Arizona in general on vacation when I was probably a freshman, sophomore in high school. And the women out here were beautiful, right? She took me to Arizona State University and just tan bodies and beautiful women, girls everywhere. So as a young high school kid, I wanted to move here. So as soon as I graduated high school, I moved to Arizona. My plan was to go to Arizona State University, and I was going to major in business or finance. And I decided, because I didn't have a lot of money at the time, I decided to get some of my prerequisites done at a local junior college before I took on the financial burden of a university. So I tried to get some of my prerequisites done in business at the local junior college. Well, it turns out the local junior college had a fire science and EMT program. And where I grew up, small town New York, the fire service was volunteer. So I didn't really grow up thinking about the fire service as a career. It was more just something, guys did on the side, and they got, cheap beer down at the firehouse for their volunteer department. So I never thought of the fire service as a career until I was here in Arizona. I'm going to this junior college. I'm taking business courses, and I stumbled upon this fire and EMT program. And the fire service here is very high profile, responding to motor vehicle accidents, medical calls. So you see them on the streets all the time. So my eyes were just opened up to this possibility. And when I came across the fire science EMT program, it just intrigued me. And I enrolled for EMT, emergency medical technician. And it was the first time I took a college level class that I loved, and I was engaged, and I just knew right away, this is what I want to do. And my instructor was a captain for the Phoenix Fire Department, and every day he'd come into class and tell us stories about the shifts before. And man, I was sold, hook, line, and sinker. So he became a mentor to me, and soon after I entered the program, I started to take more fire science more fire science classes, and pretty soon I'm just developing a network of other like-minded young men and women like me that also want to become firefighters, and you create this network and you're helping each other, to be successful. We're all out there testing, and we're testing here in the Phoenix Valley in the metro area. There's 34 cities around Phoenix, so there's really 34 different opportunities to test for local fire departments. I live in a city called Mesa. Mesa is the largest suburb of Phoenix, about 500,000 people. And that's where I lived, and that's ultimately where I got hired. So about a year and a half after I started my EMT and fire science program is when I hired on to the fire department. That was in 1992. And I did 25 years, and within the fire service, within that career, I got to do everything I ever wanted to do. I became a paramedic. I promoted to the rank of engineer, drove the fire truck, then promoted to captain. I got to manage a crew and a fire station. and then I promoted to battalion chief, and I got to run a whole battalion of fire stations, which I loved. I took on some managerial positions in human resources and safety, and ultimately promoted to a fire chief position where I was, the fire chief, right? Like the guy in charge of the whole department. And I left Mesa after 20 years and went to a neighboring city where I was their fire chief for 5 years. So I really got to take a lot of the leadership pearls and a lot of the managerial things that I learned throughout my career and apply that to a new organization in my new role, and serve them for the last 5 years of my career. So I did exactly 25 years, and then left and
Yeah.
started doing something new. So
Yeah.
I
So
had a great career. I got to do everything. I was on the technical rescue team. I did all kinds of things in the fire service, and just had got to have so much fun.
So I gotta say, Paul, I'm fascinated because, well, let's back up a little bit to your journey. I've been to Scottsdale once in my life, and that was as a Marine,
Mm.
and that's where ASU is for our listeners. That's where Arizona State is. It's in Scottsdale, and
Yeah.
uh, that place is different for sure.
Yeah.
That place is different. I think me and my buddy, we were stationed in 29 Palms, so I'm definitely not condoning drinking and driving, but we may have had a few beers and just decided that Phoenix is only 4 hours and somehow ended up in Scottsdale.
Yeah, I
And
understand. When you're a young
yeah,
man, it's a cool place to be, for sure.
yeah, it was all. That's a weekend I'll probably never forget. I remember I woke up on a Sunday to a text message from a buddy saying, "Hey, you want to go get haircuts?" And I was like, "I don't even know where we are. Like, we're not we're not in California, dude. So no,
Yeah,
I'm good on haircuts."
yeah.
Yeah, what a riot. But so take me to that because, dude, you're all BS aside, like what an incredible career that you had. I mean, you're talking about you moved to Scottsdale or the Phoenix area in 1989, and then you had a little bit of an alteration of your original plan for business and finance, and you went to smart financially, like as far as schooling goes, route, and you decided rather than bury myself in debt, I'm going to go to a JUCO, which is fantastic, by the way, and they offer more of like the fire science program stuff that than those bigger schools at a way more affordable price, right? I mean, let's just be real,
Yeah,
like way more
a
affordable.
fraction of the
And
cost.
yeah, and then on top of that, man, I don't mean to be repetitive here, but I was blown away. You literally started at the bottom, worked your way all the way up to the chief, but you were an engineer, a freaking captain, and then you were a battalion chief even, and
Mm.
like talk us through that progression a little bit because I think a lot of people don't realize that you can anything you think you can achieve, anything you dream you can achieve if you, with hard work, the right attitude, and a dedication. And I know in the fire ranks that's not something that's just given to you. But in 25 years, man, that seems like a pretty big accomplishment list, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was a very diverse career. It was an interesting path, and I don't think a lot of people realize just how many opportunities exist within a fire service organization. I think really my experience and the opportunities that Mesa Fire Department afforded me are pretty typical in the fire service. I think there's a lot of things that you can do, whether you want to dive into health and fitness. There's that place. There's hazardous materials, and there's technical rescue teams like I did, mountain rescue and helicopter rescue and all this stuff. Um, there's human resources. I went and worked in HR. I was a captain in human resources for a while, facilitating the firefighter recruit testing process, facilitating promotional exams within the department. So, not fighting fires, not being on a fire truck, working a 40-hour a week position. So, I was able to just do all kinds of different things. There's just opportunities abound wherever I wanted to go, whatever I wanted to do. Um, there's really so much opportunity within a fire service organization. I don't think most people realize. Most people think you're riding on a fire truck and that's it. And they don't
Yeah.
realize that there's all these other things that you can do in a fire service organization if you choose to. So I bounced around a lot and did a lot of different things, and it enriched me in my career. You know.
Yeah. So talk about that a little bit, dude, because I think a lot of people, I guess, one, I would agree with you. I don't think people realize, like, I had no idea that I knew that there was different scopes, but I didn't realize there was that many different things that you could attach yourself to as far as department or niche work, if you
Yeah,
will.
niche work. Yeah,
Yeah.
great term. Yeah,
Yeah. But with that, it sounds to me, man, like you had to learn to take aggressive action. You never allowed yourself to get boxed in, is
yeah,
what that sounds like to me.
yeah,
And I think there's a lot of people that probably even I would say you would know. You've seen it. I would imagine there's a lot of firefighters even that out there they call it ego, whatever you want to call it. They're like, oh, I'm this. Like I'm gonna do this and maybe they limit themselves from the ability to grow. So kind of talk through because this is I don't care what career you're in, what you did is gold,
yeah.
right? Like you bounced around and took experiences to grow. And that is what this show is about, the Barbarian show, right? Like taking the unruly approach. So do you mind sharing a little bit of that mindset and how you went about that?
I think it's a little bit my personality type embedded in my DNA, where I just kind of get a little bit bored
Yeah.
after a couple few years, and I've just I'm 53 now, so I'm still uh, I'm learning who I am and reflecting on who I was and who I am today. But I've just noticed this pattern throughout my life. But about the 3 to 5 year mark, I'm really looking to do something new. I
Yeah.
kind of get bored and I want to expand, explore something new, and but the fire service allowed me to do that. Right, there's so much more opportunity than just riding on a truck and going on calls, which was great too. But there's just opportunity abound, and so I was always looking for the next thing. I wanted to learn something new, challenge myself with something new. And I think not only in the fire service, but even just in my personal life, I was kind of always doing the same thing as well.
Yeah. So how did you because let's take a look at that for a second. How did you set yourself up to where when the opportunity was there, you were a candidate? Because I think it's one thing to get bored and say, "Hey, I want to try something," but that has to take a tremendous amount of positioning yourself also, so that
Yeah,
when that door is knocked on, you can answer, right?
yeah.
Or like you can walk through it when it opens. So, what was that like? What did you do to be ready for that?
You mean getting hired in the fire service originally? You mean?
No, I mean like so say you start as like just working on the truck, right? Or you're
Yeah,
paramedic or
yeah,
whatnot, you work your way up. But then now, like you said, it's been 3 to 5 years and I want to go to become a battalion chief from a captain or
yeah,
whatnot,
yeah,
right? How
yeah,
do you set yourself up so that you are promotable, right? Because a lot of
yeah,
guys, captains where they get stuck,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah, lot of hard work and commitment for sure. The fire service is a communal profession. In other words,
Yeah.
there's hundreds of us, sometimes thousands of you in a large municipal department. So and you've got these defined processes, like in the military, right? The process, the system's already defined. You're just in it.
Yeah.
So so it was just a matter of it was really just a matter of learning the game a little bit, right? Understanding the process, how this is going to work, and then polishing your skill set. I relied on other people, and I think there's some lessons to be learned from that. Um, I think I'm a very good interviewer now, but there was a time in my life, in my career, where I wasn't comfortable sitting in front of an oral board. And when I was testing for captain, I paired up with a buddy of mine, actually one of my best friends in the whole world. He was a great talker, a great speaker, a great interviewer, and I wasn't. So he had some skills that I didn't, and I had some skills that he didn't. And we decided to pair up, and we said, we're going to help each other succeed in this captain promotional process. So our intent was to help each other get better, not just to improve ourselves, but to help each other. And the two of us, we were competing against 24 other candidates, I think, for the captain test, for example. But what we did over the course of 6 months or so, preparing for that captain's test, really changed the course of my whole career. He taught me how to speak, how to talk, how to sit in front of an interview panel and talk about who I am confidently. I learned so much from him, and I think if he was sitting here right now, he would tell you the same thing. He would tell you he learned a lot from me. But a lot of people, we weren't aware of other people doing that at the time. That wasn't a thing. Promotional exams were very much about me and where I can come out in the list and my success, and everybody kind of goes their own direction and works on their own skill sets. Whereas we decided to team up, and I think that changed everything for me. Later on in my career, as I was teaching other firefighters, I had a lot of leadership roles, I guess, in the fire service, where I would speak to the next batch of captain's candidates or the next batch of engineer candidates and all these promotional candidates, firefighter recruits. And I used to share my story about teaming up with my buddy and how we helped each other. I would share that story with everyone I could, because I felt like it just changed the course of my career. I learned to speak more openly, be more confident talking about who I am and what skills or attributes I bring to the table, and then so that accelerated the rest of my career. So when you say, how'd you become a battalion chief and then deputy chief and then a fire chief, it's because I was confident, comfortable talking about who I am and what I bring to the table. And I think that's an asset that all barbarians need as they move through life. It's self-confidence without being over the top. You're not egotistical, you're not arrogant about it, but you certainly need to know who you are and what good and what maybe not so good attributes you possess, the kind of things that you're great at, that come natural to you, but here's the things I'm working on too. And I can talk about that to just about anybody.
Yeah, no, that's incredible, man. And I think it goes to show for your self-awareness to a point too, like being able to identify a chink in your armor. Like you might be confident and charismatic and even deliberate with what you do, but you're also very aware of how you can be better, that 1% more that you need to turn it up. And
yeah, for sure.
correct me if I'm wrong, in that industry, let's just say the battalion chief position, that's not a position that necessarily comes available very often, correct?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, you're competing with a shit ton of other captains or even other chiefs at that point for that, right?
Yeah. Kind of the same thing with the firefighter recruit. When I first tested for the fire department, it was 1,300 people testing for 20 positions. So, wow. How did I make the 20 out of 1,300? And then, and I was extremely young. I was 21. So I hired on young. When I tested for engineer, kind of the same thing. You're testing against 30, 40 people for 3 or 4 positions. And then the captain's test, and the battalion chief test, I mean, it's always kind of the same thing. So there's a certain amount of luck, but I'm not gonna say it was all luck, because I worked very, very hard to improve myself, to improve my communication skills, to just be a better employee and better person and live up to the expectations that the organization has for those roles and those positions, right? Like, the fire department has certain expectations for the behavior, the conduct, and performance of a battalion chief. So I became that person, and not in a fake way, in a very genuine, manner, in a very genuine way. And so I had become that person and become the individual that the organization wanted and needed, and live up to it every single day. I felt like as I progressed throughout my career, like I said, I hired on at 21 years old, and I'm in a recruit class with a bunch of 26, 28, 32-year olds. I'm the youngest guy, and I really was kind of the youngest guy a lot, but I had to, I always felt very fortunate. And whether I was on the job 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, I always felt like, and no matter what position I had, I came to work every day feeling like I needed to earn the opportunity that I was given.
Yeah.
One of the, I'll say this too. This might be a point that you're looking for when you're asking me one of my questions. I always tried to do things that the other candidates weren't doing. One of the things that I did when I was a 20-year-old kid, wanting to get hired by this fire department, is a bold move at the time. This was a very bold move at the time. In fact, this is going back to 1991 maybe, and just a lot more conventional ways of thinking back then. But I decided to call the fire department one day. I called their main number, and a lady answered. Turns out she was the secretary of the fire chief, and I said, "May I speak to the fire chief, please?" I'm a 20-year-old kid, mind you, with no life experience whatsoever. But somebody had taught me that when you want to work for an organization, meet the man or woman at the top, introduce yourself to the man or woman at the top of that organization, and ask them what they're looking for, and use that as a starting point for your preparation. So I kind of took that advice for when I was a kid to now I'm 20 years old. I'm still very much a kid, and I just decided one day to pick up the phone and call the fire chief. Right, like that was unheard of at the time. So I called the main number. Lady answers. I said, "Can I speak to the fire chief, please?" She goes, "Sure. Who's calling?" I said, "My name is Paul Bourgeois, and I'm going to be testing for your fire department here soon." She said, "All right, hold on." She put me on hold. I thought, holy shit, this is happening. And she puts me through to the fire chief, and his name was Don Johnson. And we chatted for a little bit. And I said, "Sir, I'm new to Arizona, and I'm new to all this, but I'm working hard in junior college, and I did great in my EMT class, and I live here in Mesa, and I want to work for your department. Tell me what it is you're looking for." And so I asked the man in charge, "What is it you're looking for in a firefighter for your fire department?" And then I went to work on those things. And I was able to bring some of those insights to my oral interview and talk. I didn't share with the interview board that I spoke to the fire chief, but I was able to share with them, here's what I think this organization is looking for, and here's how I can fill that gap for you. So I was a little bit bold at the time. I look back on that, and I think that was one of the most important things that I did to help me prepare for a spot in that organization, and to be prepared for the testing process in a way that other people weren't preparing.
Yeah. That
I, ha-
definitely would have set you apart, huh?
I had to do things to set me apart. I really did. I had to do things to set myself apart. I would do ride-alongs. One of the things that was really common in the fire service still is doing ride-alongs. I don't know post-COVID era if ride-alongs are allowed as much anymore. I'm really a little bit out of touch now, but back then going on a ride-along was key. And a lot of my peers were doing ride-alongs as well. Do you know what I mean by a ride-along? You basically sign up and you go ride on a fire truck for a few hours with the crew and just kind of get to see firsthand what the job is like. So a lot of guys and gals who were like me, peers of mine in the junior college at the time, are doing ride-alongs. And a lot, most everybody was riding along with the busiest engine companies in any given city, in the Phoenix area or Mesa or Chandler Gilbert, just trying to get on busy fire trucks and really just for the thrill of it. And I had a different approach where I was really trying to understand the role of an engine company. And then I would purposely sign up to do a ride along with a ladder company. And then I even did something else distinctly different from everybody else. I went and rode with a fire inspector. And it's as boring as it sounds, but I was doing things to set myself apart. So when I went to my oral interview, and I could tell my interview panel, when they ask you what sort of things you doing to prepare, I could say, well, I've done ride-alongs. But not only have I done ride-alongs, I would give them the number of hours I rode along. How many exposure hours did I have? And I've ridden along with engine companies and ladder companies and even fire investigators and fire inspectors. And that always got their interest. Like, why are you riding along with fire inspectors? But I could share with them the things that I learned from these individuals. And I feel like I came away with a more comprehensive understanding of the organization and what they're looking for than my counterparts.
Yeah.
I could speak to fire safety and fire code enforcement and all these other things that candidates couldn't speak to. So I was always looking for ways to just like you said, set myself apart, distinguish myself from the crowd, whether I was testing for the fire department to begin with, or working in promotional processes. Always trying to do something different. What's everybody else not doing?
Yeah, no, that's incredible. What's one thing you think that you did, like, do you remember what it was like to be so let me rephrase this. So once you made battalion chief, that had to have been like, oh yeah, right? Like, and I know you say you get bored every 3 to 5 years, but that had to have been like you had to keep your ego cool, I'm sure, because that's a like you made it to the top now, right? Like
Yeah.
you're the boss, you're the guy in charge. You only got a couple people ahead of you above you at this point doing that. So what was it like to realize that even though you're now at the top, but that you can still go more, right? Like,
Yeah.
how did you make that transition to go from senior leadership to like really pristine executive level
Yeah.
leadership?
Yeah. Yeah, that was interesting. And battalion chief, when I reflect back on my 25-year career, the battalion chief was really one of my favorite positions. And and
Yeah.
if I could critique myself and critique my career, it might be you should have stayed at battalion chief because, you know, it was so rewarding. It was rewarding because I got to take care of a battalion's worth of people. And
Yeah.
in my organization in Mesa, that accounted for, I want to say my battalion was five or six stations, and that might be 40 or 50 people. So my job every day was just to come to work and take care of these 50 or 60 people and those five or six stations and those captains and just what do you guys need from me today? How can I help you be successful? That was such a rewarding position. And then I didn't have to respond and go on a lot of the day to day calls, the medical calls and whatnot. I would just only respond on the big calls. So in that
Yeah.
regard, it was fun. So the big fires or the big motor vehicle accidents or a big medical call like a shooting or something like that. So um, I got to go on all the exciting stuff. Very rewarding. And
Yeah.
when I look back, I think sometimes like, what were you thinking getting into the political? It gets way more political above battalion chief. And what happened is I'm just minding my own business one day, loving life, loving being a battalion chief. And a guy that I know from a neighboring city, physically, literally neighboring, we share a border, Mesa and this other city, called me and said, hey, our fire chief's going to be retiring and we're looking for a new fire chief. And we'd like you to consider coming over. So, you know, how flattering, right? To be,
Yeah. For
to,
real.
yeah, it was a great feeling to out of, I mean, so much talent in the department where I came from, so much talent here in the Phoenix Valley. I mean, just incredible people. So for someone to single you out and say, we'd like you to come and lead our department was something that I'd never really considered before. But I really got excited about it. And I'd say I kind of rose to the occasion where I kind of set my sights on it. And not kind of, I did. I set my sights on it and I said, I want to do this. I'm going to go and try to make this happen. So I did. So when that position came open, I put my best foot forward. I worked really hard to prepare myself. I want to say there was 7 other candidates from around the country. They actually allowed me. I had a leg up. They actually let me come over and be the chief on an interim basis for a little while. So they kind of leased me from
Yeah.
Mesa. They leased me from my department, paid for me to be an interim chief. So they got to feel me out, but I got to feel them out too. And then they opened a testing process. And so I definitely had an advantage, but I still had to perform and earn that position, which I did. So I did that for the next 5 years. The fire chief position is, people ask me all the time, they think as a fire chief, you're going on calls, but the fire chief is a very political position. You're actually another political member of the community. And an old mentor of mine told me once that when you become the fire chief, you begin working outside the department. Uh, Prior to being a fire chief, you're working in the department. As a fire chief, you're working outside the department. And what that means is you're interfacing with mayors and council members and all the other politicos and stakeholders in your community, to forge relationships and leverage relationships to improve your organization, to help other departments or components of your community in your city succeed, right? You're just working amongst all the other stakeholders in your region, in your state, whatever it might be. So a lot of work outside the department, but a very political position, a very hard position, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The battalion chief position was just still very, very fire related, working with the guys and the gals and good stuff. But the fire chief position was very, very, very different, very rewarding, but um, very different in that regard.
Yeah. Man, what an incredible thing, though, to be able to just. There's nothing you can't say you didn't experience in that industry. Like in 25 years, you ran the gauntlet and came out the other end and
It
just
was a gauntlet
crushed
for
it.
sure. It was a gauntlet.
Yeah.
I had a
Well, you
great
crushed
career.
it,
I'm
man.
very fortunate. Very fortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate to talk to you. I really appreciate your time today on this and sharing your story. I think um, it's just a testament to what's possible when you put your head down and work,
You got to
And
work. You got to work. And I think there's too many people who just want it handed to them. They just want to do
oh,
what everyone else is doing, put forth a mediocre effort, and they expect exceptional results. And that was never me. I was always trying to go above and beyond, distinguish myself in some way, try to just, I don't know, approach things differently than maybe the conventional wisdoms would suggest, and just think
yeah,
outside the box a little bit. Maybe it might be a good phrase to say, how can I prepare myself a little bit differently? And like I say, right up to my last day in my career, I felt like I was always trying to earn what Don Johnson, that fire chief, that opportunity he afforded me 25 years earlier. I always felt like I was earning it, even though I might have had these gold bugles and this beautiful uniform. I never felt like I arrived. I always felt like I was still earning that, that gift that he had given me. He, Don Johnson, back then when he hired me, I was a 21-year-old kid. What did I have to offer at 21 years old? I had zero life experience. I didn't know shit. Um, and he rolled the dice on me, and I'm thankful for that. I was thankful for it every single day of my career. And I think that's a mindset that especially people in public service should have, that
right.
I'm not bigger or better than this job. I don't deserve this. I'm not entitled to this. I'm earning this. I should need to.
Yeah, yeah. And so, but dude, I want to back up there because you said something that really strikes home with me today, and I think you'll appreciate this because you're ahead of me because my generation lost what you're talking about, right? Like you said, call it make yourself more competitive or edge, but to me, like let's call it spade a spade. You showed up every day to compete.
Yeah, I
Every
did.
day, everything
Hmm.
was a competition, and
Yeah,
I think on that, like that's okay. Like it's good to have an edge about you, a caginess to like. Listen, I know the world wants us to think that we're all created equal, and maybe sure we were created. I believe in God, so like we were all created for greatness and with an intent and very loved. But we're all very different, and competition breeds greatness, hands down. I don't care about your feelings on this. This isn't a debate. Like, life is not. Emotions aren't results. Emotions get people killed. Emotions are setbacks. Like, I'm sorry, but results speak, and that takes confidence and competition. And mediocre, I don't know what has gone. I almost don't recognize the world right now. I'm not going to lie to you, because I
We can
never
agree on
thought I'd
that too.
live. Yeah, yeah. I never thought I'd live in a world where we would celebrate mediocrity
Yeah.
when it's an absolute virus and
Mm.
poison on society. Like, I personally, your story says this about you, so I know you could say you too, right? But I personally will never accept good enough for my life. Like, good enough is not great. I understand that I'm not perfect. I don't have any desire to be perfect, but I do want to be great or excellent at anything that I do. And good enough, ugh, kill me now, dude, because it's disgusting.
Yeah.
That's a lie to yourself. Good enough is a cop out for what you really could accomplish. It's like saying, hey, I know I could do something amazing, incredible, like noteworthy, but I'm good right here. Like, this
Yeah.
is enough.
Yeah.
And I think they try to wash it out with saying, well, you need to be thankful for what you have. Nobody said you're not thankful. And everything I heard you just say about your positions is you embraced them. You loved them. That's not having gratitude or
Yeah.
appreciating
Yeah.
where you're at, right?
Yeah.
So, dude, I just don't. What happened to that bug where men like you, men like me, where you show up ready to win at all costs every day?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I imagine going through this, dude. I got to imagine that there was a point here where you had to really turn your feelings off to what people thought of you, especially your peers, especially for promotion, right? Because if you listen to all the riffraff, you stay in it, right? Because you have to separate yourself from that. So part of what you're alluding to without saying it, and I love that you're not, because you're not trashing on people, but to make yourself better, you got to separate yourself from that.
Yeah.
So everything that everybody is doing that has them where they are, if they're not in the position or living the life you want, discard it. I mean, that's what it takes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I used to have a phrase I would use this jokingly in some of the classes I would teach. Strive to be mediocre, right? Like, that's not why we're here. The fire service, especially the Mesa Fire Department where I worked, just a fantastic organization, great leaders. But when I came in, the first day I came in the door, they already had, and I think the fire service has, for the most part, shore to shore, coast to coast, expectations of excellence.
Yes.
So I walked into an organization that already expected excellence. We expect to be exceptional at customer service, taking care of our communities, taking care of our victims, our patients, and just providing exceptional service. So that's something I gravitated to that. I embraced that. In that way, the values of the fire service and my values were very closely aligned. So organizations, fire service aside, but any organization that you want to work for or work with, work within, or create is going to have its own set of characteristics and values. In my case, the fire service valued exceptional service, physical fitness, safety, a handful of other things I could go on about.
Yeah.
My personal values were closely aligned with the values of that organization. So that's another reason why I was able to be so successful, right? Because I recognized that my values are aligned with the organization's values. Now I just have to learn how to speak to that and sell myself. You talk about competing with the other guys and gals, and in some ways, that was important to me, and that's exactly what I was doing, competing with others. But I really think throughout my whole career, I was competing with myself.
Yeah, that's what I meant by that, though. But it's a
Yep.
competition
It's a
every day.
competition with myself. Like I know I'm not
Yeah.
the man. I know I'm not the captain. I'm not the firefighter that I want to be just yet. There's room for growth here. And when I would retreat to my back bedroom to prepare myself for the next opportunity, the next promotional process, when I was going out and gathering more information or intel to help me be more successful for this next process, it was really always a matter of competing against myself. How can I just improve myself? I can't worry about the 20 or 30 other people taking the same promotional test I am. I just have to worry about me. And
Yes.
here's what I know, and here's where I want to be. I got to bridge that gap. So I'm working on all this stuff right here. From here, here's where I'm at. Here's where I want to be. There's a lot of work to be done in there, and you just got to do it. I can tell you what's happened to men. My opinion, my 2 cents. The world according to Paul.
Yeah.
It's
It's
the
the Paul show.
it's the trophies for ninth place.
Yeah. Yeah.
My boys were in Little League, and trophies for ninth place, man. Let's face it, the ninth place team sucks, but but they're still rewarded, and they're still told by mommy and daddy, you're great. And I think there's a different message in there. It's like, there's a lot of lessons to be. Some of the, an observation now, being 53 years old, reflecting back, the
Sure.
best, the best firefighters, the best coworkers were team players. Marines too. Same could be said for the military. Absolutely,
Yeah.
lot of parallels between our stories and our histories. The
Yeah.
best Marines, the best are going and best firefighters, police officers are team players. Guys and gals who played team sports. Right? You can just see the people who are successful have a background in team sports, and not bullshit trophy for ninth place sports, but back in the day when first place was all that mattered, and if you weren't first place, you went back to the drawing board and you tried to get better.
Yeah.
Not not a society that tells me you're still great even though you sucked. No, I'm not. Don't tell me I'm great when I'm not great. Tell me I've got room for growth. Tell me I have potential and that there's so much room for growth, but don't coddle me and don't lie to me and tell me I'm great when I'm not. Tell me that you have potential, and if you work hard, you'll get there. And I think that's what more people need to hear. No, they need to hear that. No, you're not great yet, right? You have a lot of potential to be great, but you got work to do. Go work hard. There's nothing wrong with telling
Yes.
people to go do the work, put in the time, do the work, and become great. But don't expect to be told you're great when you're not.
Yeah.
And that's where we're lacking today. Everybody wants to be told they're great. They want to feel good about themselves, even though they haven't put in the time.
Yeah. I think another thing, dude, when you were saying that just came to me also is uh, growth is not necessarily linear. Like it happens on its own time, right? Like you just got to put in the inputs and know that at some day you're going to in place the right input, and then that's when the output is going to benefit you,
For
right? Or
sure, for
whatever you
sure,
get from it is, but it's still taking that action, not knowing, like, let's just say swinging an axe. It's chipping and trip, brutal force
for
after
sure,
strike after strike
for
after
sure.
strike after strike,
You got to
knowing.
put in the work. You got to burn. But yeah, you got to swing the axe, right? You got to burn
That's
the
it.
calories. And I let me say this too, because I'm talking a lot about me, but make no mistake that so much of my success was due to mentors. I had
Sure.
great mentors. I had people that really invested in me. That if I asked for an hour of their time to sit down and talk to me about promoting to the next level or about being a better manager or leader at the next level, so many people that made themselves available to me throughout my whole career. So it's not like I just did this alone, like I'm some exceptional human being. I'm not. I'm just like anybody else. Have the same potential as anybody else. But I swung the axe, like you said. I burned the calories, and and I worked hard to become better. But that was a lot of mentors. Thinking back in my organization, there's probably 8, 10, 12 people that that really helped make me who who I was, who I am.
Yeah.
And so that there's a lot to be said for that too. Surrounding yourself with great people, gravitating toward exceptional people, and striving to be more like them. Taking bits and pieces from everybody and saying, I like those personality traits, I like those character traits. Like I want to strive to be more like that in my own way, right?
Yeah.
So a lot to be said for having great mentors, and even now we haven't gotten there yet. Maybe we will in this podcast. But what I'm doing now, I'm still relying on mentors, very very much so. So it's not like I just have all this clarity and all this success and this luck without the help of other people. I very much rely on other people to get me there.
Yeah. And I think, dude, I think that's a key thing. You have to, but picking the right mentor, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is
For
so
sure,
important.
for
Yeah,
sure.
that's what I meant earlier about avoid the riffraff with you
Yeah,
can't be worried about the noise of the people that aren't living the life you don't want to live.
yeah,
You
yeah.
have to go after the people that are in the positions that you want, and what you surround yourself with is what you'll put out. So your inputs become your outputs. Like
Well,
a hundred.
who you surround yourself with is who you'll become,
That's it. Thank you.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
for
And
sure. So I'm on a whole new path these days, doing things completely different than I did in my fire service career, but I'm still using the same model for
yeah,
success. I'm still surrounding myself with quality individuals, quality people, people that know more than I do, and I'm just trying to incrementally, catch up to where they're at, or at least improve myself, um, to enjoy more success in some different arenas right now.
yeah. Well, I would say, dude, just off of just even the last 47 minutes of talking to you, like I just getting to know you, you were probably that mentor to other people as well. Like without a doubt, I could sense that about you just listening to the way that you talk. Like that was probably something I imagine you prided yourself on, right? Is being that leader that was
Yeah,
available for
yeah,
his people.
absolutely. And I hope it comes across how
Yeah.
fortunate and thankful I am for the mentors that I had. And
Yeah.
certainly one of the most rewarding aspects of my career has been to mentor others. And I still do. I've been retired 6 or 7 years, man. I'm like a has been. But I mean, just a couple weeks ago, had a young guy who's testing for the fire department. And he goes, hey, he actually called me, and he says, I just came across this document that you created in, I think it was 2004, 2006. This leadership it was titled Performance Expectations. And I always had very high expectations for myself, my own performance. But I created this document years ago, and these kids were using it today to prepare themselves for their interview and their testing processes with fire departments. So I mean, man, so
What an
humbling.
impact.
What a
Yeah.
great feeling, really, really made me feel good to know that my stuff is out there and being used and is still relevant, right? Some of my stuff is relevant. So, yeah. I don't mentor people as much as I used to, just because the farther away from it you get.
Yeah.
Still really enjoy that from time to time when the opportunity arises.
Yeah, for sure. So, dude, we've beat your fire career to death. Well, we haven't beat it to death, but we've talked about some really incredible things. And I mean, I do want to be able to spend a little bit of time with you on what you do now, as I think it's cool because you talked about in your career, we covered making pivots essentially, right? Like
Yeah,
to always to the next level. And when you retired, you didn't just pivot to sitting on a beach drinking Coronas, right?
no,
Like here you are again at the bottom of a new world in another stressful
yeah,
environment, taking on an entirely different challenge, and that's becoming an entrepreneur.
yeah.
Dive
Hey,
in. Let's talk about what you're doing.
first of all, Jonathan, there's nothing wrong with sitting on a beach drinking Coronas. Let's both agree on that. But
No,
uh,
nothing wrong
I-
with that.
so I love hunting. I love the outdoors. I love hunting, and that's been a love of mine. My father instilled in me from the time that I was a very, very young boy. And I mean, when I was 7 or 8 years old, I was reading magazine articles about hunting. I was just
Okay.
my imagination um, was just so invested in the outdoors and hunting. So I grew up in the outdoors. I grew up hunting. Been a hunter my whole life, and I always knew throughout my career that when I retired, I was going to go hunting, and that was my retirement plan. Is my wife and I were just going to go into the woods and get lost, kind of the beach and the Corona. But for me, it
Yeah.
was for me it was going to be in the mountains, in the trees, with the wildlife, and just retreat from this what was really a rewarding but a very stressful career. And that led to me being a professional guide. So when I retired, almost right away, I got hired as a professional hunting guide. Um, and I did that for
Wow.
a while. I did that for a while, and I realized that the the rifle systems and the optics that I was using and allowing my clients to use on hunts, allowing them to use to be successful, I got into that business. I got into the hunting supply business, and just after a year or two of being a professional guide, I realized, I'm talking to all these clients about these products that I use to be successful, and I'm in fact I'm really kind of a salesman. I might as well go into sales. So we opened I opened a business with my son, and it's now blossomed. I took on a partner who's actually a former. He was one of my assistant chiefs when I was a fire chief. He was one of my assistant chiefs. He's also a hunter, and he came into the business as a partner with me. We've been doing that now for about 5 years, and so just a whole different direction, a whole different course. I actually, before I got hired in the fire service, when I was a young man, 16, 17, 18, I really wanted to be an entrepreneur. I used to
Yeah.
get I used to get entrepreneurial magazines. I even traveled to some entrepreneurial shows, like conferences and banquets. Like that's kind of where I think I wanted to be as a young man until the fire service just came into my life. That EMT fire science program at the JUCO, and I changed course. So I never, for 25 years, I never fueled that entrepreneurial spirit until after I retired. So it's kind of a cool opportunity to come full circle and now realize, hey, I've got an opportunity now to explore some of this entrepreneurial spirit that is suppressed for a number of years, and it's been hard. like, and the entrepreneurs of the world will tell you this ain't easy. It's not for the faint at heart. So it's been a really very challenging, rough road, not unlike the fire service was, but the same. I still possess a fraction of the tenacity I had as a young man, so that is pushing me to become a better businessman and entrepreneur, and try to navigate these the challenging waters of 2024, trying to advertise on social media that you sell guns in 2024
Yeah.
is not a popular message amongst the world's elite, whoever runs these social media platforms anymore. And a challenging environment, working through it. Um, but I'm fortunate because I'm in the hunting business, and that was a passion of mine. So I, for my business, I go hunting, right? So I get to spend time in the outdoors doing something I love and I enjoy, and that's my business now. So I'm
Yeah.
very fortunate with that. Also, after I retired, I played guitar. I started playing guitar around my college years, but it wasn't until after I retired I started playing more. And so now I have a full-fledged country rock band, and we gig.
What?
Yeah. So we gig 3 or 4 times a month, and we're just having an absolute blast. So I cannot complain about where I'm at in my life right now, but a lot of work, a lot of effort to get there to enjoy some of the things that I'm enjoying today.
Yeah, for sure. So tell me about what'd you guide? What animals?
So here in Arizona, we have pretty diverse wildlife. We have
Yeah, you do.
two different deer species, whitetail, mule deer. We have elk. We have black bear. So we're mountain lion, javelina.
Desert
So
sheep.
yeah, bighorn sheep. So we're doing all that. So my customers now. So what I do now is if I have a tag, if I drew a tag, I might go hunting for myself. But most all the hunting I do right now is with my customers. So they
Oh,
buy a long range system from me, a long range rifle system from me, and then I go on their cool hunts. So hunting with my customers has taken me to Alaska, to Idaho, to Wyoming, to Mexico, to all kinds of different places. And man, I'm loving it, and I'm very fortunate to do that. I get to go on these really high quality hunts with my customers. I basically serve as a guide, but I also help them with their shooting and make sure they have a great shot. We want a good ethical one shot harvest, and so I'm pretty blessed that I get to go do all this cool stuff and hunt all these cool animals. I was just up in Alaska moose hunting last year. I was Dall sheep hunting with a customer a year before that, and it takes me all over, and I get to do a little bit of everything in the hunting world. So very very fortunate when it comes to that. And when I'm not doing that, man, I'm playing rock and country music with my band and just having an absolute blast. Right. So life is good right now. Life is
yeah, it
good.
sounds like it.
Yeah.
So, what's your favorite animal? What's your favorite hunt you've been on, or coolest
You
one
know,
you've been a part of?
every January I spend pretty much the whole month of January down in Mexico hunting a subspecies of white-tailed deer called Coues deer. Coues is kind of the slang, but it's a
Yeah,
white-tailed deer subspecies. And I grew up hunting white-tailed deer in New York State, and always been a favorite animal of mine. Just a feisty creature to chase around the forest. But I love
hmm
going to Mexico. I love white-tailed deer, and that's probably my favorite. Yeah,
yeah. Have you? Cause you guys have Coos in Arizona too, don't you?
yeah, we do. Yep, yep.
Yeah,
The thing about Mexico is we're hunting these private ranches. They're huge, and there's no one else out there. We've got
yeah,
we've got 5, 6, 7 clients, and we all just go our separate ways. So you've got this what is a really high quality hunt, right? It's not like a public land hunt where
sure.
you got guys everywhere. You've got the whole place to yourself. It's very peaceful. It's beautiful down there, and I spend, like I said, pretty much the whole month of January down there guiding clients. I've got 2 clients every week. A lot of those guys down there, a lot of those clients are also customers of mine too, and so a lot of guys down there are using our long range systems. So I'm able to be there and help those guys be successful. I get my 2 clients tagged out, and then I get to go help all the other guys too. So
Yeah,
any given week down in Mexico, I might get to be part of 4 or 5 harvests, and man, that just it gives me what I need. That's what I need in my life. I love to be in the outdoors. I love to hunt. I love to have a successful hunt. I respect the animals that we pursue. So it's a great thing for me to get to do at this second chapter of my life, I guess.
yeah. It sounds like it. Have you got to go to New Mexico for ibex at all yet?
I'm going to New Mexico to work with a partner outfitter of ours here in a couple weeks for a shooting school. So that outfitter is bringing a bunch of his clients. I'm going to go teach them long range shooting. We'll shoot out to 1,000 yards or so. A lot of my partner outfitters, a lot of my customers hunt ibex and aoudad in New Mexico. I've been to New Mexico for antelope,
Yeah,
and I'm going to New Mexico for mule deer this fall. So
nice.
I do get to spend a little bit of time in New Mexico. We've taught a couple long range schools in New Mexico, Raton, New Mexico, up in northern New Mexico before. So yeah, we love that state too. I actually just went over there a few weeks ago with my partner, my business partner and hunting partner, and we took a couple turkeys over there.
Oh, nice,
Yeah.
nice. So, what's been the most challenging thing? I mean, you've had a career of climbing the ladder. I mean, I know entrepreneurial landscape's a lot different, but what's been the most challenging part of that? Is it just starting over, starting at the bottom again, or?
I had a great fire service career. The last 5 years as a fire chief were very stressful, and quite frankly, as rewarding and as exciting as it was, I was ready to get out.
Yeah,
Um, whether you're in law enforcement or the fire service, 25 years in that business cooks you. I mean,
yeah,
could you imagine 25 years in the Marine Corps, right? I mean, it would cook you.
yeah,
It cooked me. I was cooked. I was done. And uh, I used to go to seminars. I would teach some different things in the fire service. I was always going to conferences around the country, speaking and teaching on different subjects. And one of the subjects that was always offered at fire service conferences was how to transition into retirement.
mm,
And I always thought, those aren't for me because I'm not going to have any problem transitioning into retirement.
yeah,
But with the military, with law enforcement, and in the fire service, there's a real issue with guys and gals leaving the service and transitioning out. A lot of depression, PTSD, anxiety, whatever guys and gals are dealing with, but making that transition. Anyway, through my whole career, I always ignored that subject. The subject is very, very prominent in the fire service, as it is in law enforcement, as it is with the military. But I always ignored that subject because I thought, I'm not going to have any problem transitioning. I was so looking forward to going hunting. But I'll be honest with you, and I haven't talked about this to many people at all. I really struggled. I struggled coming out of the fire service. I guess what they call an identity crisis, right? Like who am I now? What's the next chapter of my life look like? And even though I can sit here with you with a big smile on my face and talk about all the successes I've had and how much fun I'm having now, there was a period of time. I retired in 2017, but there was a little bit of a period where I was struggling, and I experienced depression for the first time in my life. I mean, I had a great life, but I went through a period where I was very depressed. I was in a dark place. Um, I pushed my wife away a little bit. I've been married 29 years. We've been together for a long time, but
congratulations. That's a big
that,
deal now.
thank you. But I couldn't talk to her about it. I have three boys. I have three kids, and they're all adult age now. But it's gotten to a dark place where I convinced myself that you know all the cliche stuff that they talked about that service people experience after retirement, like you don't feel like you don't have any direction, you don't have an identity, you feel you don't have any self worth. So I went through that for a brief period of time, um, and came out the backside of it, through the love and support of my wife, and I just had to. I don't know. I had to pull myself out. We went on a road trip a couple years after I retired, and I purchased two dumbbells. I had become sick and tired of who I had become when I was in that dark place. Like I wasn't
Yeah,
wasn't exercising. I was not emotionally fit. I wasn't physically fit. I let my health go. I didn't feel good in any way, shape, or form. But my wife and I decided to go on a road trip, and it was going to be 6 weeks long. And I purchased two dumbbells. I said, I'm going to take these dumbbells with me. And I'm sick and tired of who I am. I don't like looking in the mirror anymore. I don't like who I've become. And I'm just going to try turning things around. I went on that road trip, and I just made a commitment that every day I was going to throw those dumbbells around a little bit. And that was kind of the beginning of this new chapter of my life where I'm so much happier. I'm in a great place. I'm having the time of my life. I really think I've kind of nailed retirement, right? Um, and but I had to make a deliberate effort once again to change my current situation and just make some improvements to become better. So I started this whole fitness journey that I've been on now. Actually, this month, a couple of days ago, June 1, my wife and I kind of quietly celebrated 3 years of my new fitness journey. And man, what a great investment that was in my emotional health, my physical health. I kind of let my health go, even toward the tail end of my career, because I was so invested in the work every day that I stopped exercising. I had access to world-class fitness equipment every single day, but I was just I was working too hard and let everything go. And so I feel really great making my health and my wellness and my well-being a priority again, meditating, exercising a little bit every day, doing things that are just putting me in the right mindset to tackle what the next 30 or 40 years has in store for me. So, the biggest challenge for me, to your question, was getting through that dark place
Yeah.
uh, in post-retirement. And I know for a fact that a lot of military service people, law enforcement, fire service are dealing with it too. And yeah, I experienced it and never thought that would happen to me, but it did.
Well, what you're going through there is multifaceted, right? It's an identity crisis in some senses, but it's also a loss of purpose. Like you
Yeah,
go from you live a certain lifestyle, doing a certain thing that gives you a certain purpose, and that's what you get going every day for this. Like you lived a life of
yeah,
service,
yeah. So, yeah,
and then one
so
day you
right.
hang it up, and you feel like, almost in some senses, like what you're doing is wrong. Like you're guilty for,
Yeah,
you quit on who you serve, but
yeah,
that's not the case. Like you owe it to yourself also, to your point, to enjoy your life. And you said something there about navigating hard times, and this is a perfect place where we'll start to transition into questions, Paul. And but you said something there about getting into the physical thing, because I'm on this physical journey myself, getting my physical health back. I got up to 375 pounds a couple years ago, and I'd never in my life imagined myself like that. And I just realized one day, like, I couldn't take, like you were saying, I can't look at myself. I'm not this person. I can't even chase my kids up the stairs. Like, I'm like, this is ridiculous. And somebody asked me, a close friend of mine asked me one time, he said, "Do you think that everything for you started when it was physical?" And for a long time, I was kind of like that guy that would make fun of people. Like I'd be the like guy that would drink pound beers and still hike miles in the mountains hunting. And like, you don't need to be fit, blah, 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 blah. You can just do whatever. But what I've realized, I feel like an asshole because I misled a bunch of people for those times, because the truth of it is the best I've ever felt is when I've taken the time to prioritize myself and get serious about myself. And it's given me a new vigor for life and a new, call it purpose, if you will, is getting in shape. And I think foundationally, everything starts with where you look at yourself and take care of yourself, because confidence creates curiosity, right? And when you start working out and you start feeling good, you start to get that little bit of a confident bug. Well, then you become curious of what you're really capable of. What more is there? What else can I do? And it just allows you to execute at a higher level, in my opinion, So I think that there's something to be said there about overcoming, like for our audience, if you're going through a hard time right now, you need to embrace the struggle, but you also need to lean into it and maybe look at, like what you said, you're the controllable things in your life. It could be as simple, man, and I'm sure you'd agree with this, is going for a walk. I mean, you talked about just starting with taking dumbbells with you on vacation. A set of
yeah,
dumbbells,
yeah,
a 20-minute walk can change everything.
yeah. I very conscious decision to make some lifestyle changes, and
Yeah.
I know that for me, going to the gym is a barrier. I'm just too
Yeah,
busy with my business, too busy with life to go to the gym. Going to
sure.
the gym is a barrier. So when I bought the dumbbells, I took them with me. Now they're with me. In fact, my whole fitness regimen right now is home based. My business is home based, but I have a whole fitness gym in my man space because I realized that's what I needed to stay fit. If I have to go to a gym, I probably won't do it. But when I have it with me, there's no excuse. And here's the other thing, a little bit every day. You can hear guys talking about work out 2 hours a day. I was in the gym for an hour and a half, maybe 3 hours. Some guys are nuts. I can't do that. I've got too much to do. But here's what I can do. I can do a little bit every day. I've got a buddy of mine who wrestled NCAA at ASU.
Yeah.
And one day we were just shooting the shit. I wrestled in high school, never at his level, but I was just enthralled by his story. And he was telling me about a teammate of his in the wrestling team who turned out to be a champion. And he said the year before he became a champion, he got this close to winning the championship, and the coach told him in the off season, go home and do 50 push-ups a day. And I thought, what? An NCAA coach is telling a D1 level athlete to go home and do 50 push-ups a day? I thought, how achievable is that? It's so achievable. It seems so basic, rudimentary, and even just not exciting. I thought, how can that transition a guy, the extra degree you talked about earlier, how does that take you from 211 degrees to 212 degrees, boiling water? Like,
Yeah.
how could that? So I said, well, I can do that. That's easy. I mean, what's that going to take out of my day to do 50 push-ups a day? So I would get down, do 10 push-ups, and then go about my day. At some other point in my day, I would remember, hey, I'm not done with my 50 yet. I get down, do another 10. Later on, do another 10, maybe 20. But by the end of the day, I made a commitment. I was going to do 50 push-ups. Same thing with my exercise regimen. I might knock out 10 hammer curls and then go back to what I'm doing. But I'll do that 5, 6, 7, 8 times throughout the day when it's convenient for me. That's taken that's I don't have barriers anymore, right? So now I make it part of my day. But I'll tell you what, 50 push-ups a day. Let me go back to that. I don't want to gloss over that
No,
because
that's a big deal.
it's a huge deal. 50. I tell my 3 boys right now. I tell them 50 push-ups a day transform my life. Like I start to feel like a man again, and I hope people can relate to that, especially other men. Like I started to feel strong. I started to feel strength up in my upper body, and I started to stand taller. Posture improved, but just the way I felt emotionally, not just physically. Like I started to feel more like a man, and 50 push-ups a day is so achievable, and I still do it today. I still, 3 years later, I'm still doing 50 push-ups a day most days. Just such an easily attainable fitness goal.
Yeah,
But
it's
for
also 18,250 push-ups a year.
well, it really changed my life. So then I incorporated the weights, like I said, and now I've got a little mini gym in my garage, and it's just a little bit every day. So I'm not carving out 3 hours going to the gym. It's about making it part of my day. I made it a point to try meditation a couple years ago. Another thing that I never knew about, never thought about, never participated in until after retirement when I was in that dark place. I'm like, I got to try this meditation thing and see if it helps. And I was like, holy smokes. I couldn't believe what a 10-minute meditation in the morning did for the rest of my day. It was remarkable. So meditation was a key part of that as well. So my fitness journey has been pretty interesting. Really, I think it's been unorthodox, but it's really worked for me. The fire service firefighters notoriously have very high cortisol levels, right? Lack of sleep. When you're a young, hard-charging firefighter, you want to be on the busiest truck in the city. You want to be running calls all day, all night, and that's what I did. So no sleep. I had sleep disorders pretty much my whole adult life. And if you dive into that kind of stuff, you know about cortisol and how bad cortisol is for your body. But basically, I had cortisol streaming through my veins all day, every day. Very unhealthy. Your testosterone drops way off. I mean, your hormones are all jacked up, and you just, stress. This is stress, not good for you. So retiring was a big deal. Just getting sleep every night, learning how to sleep again. I actually had to learn how to get a good night's sleep. Um, from years of just being on trucks and not sleeping at night, and all those factors together, just adopting a healthier lifestyle, getting 7, 8 hours of sleep a night, a little bit of exercise every day goes a long way. Meditate when I feel like I need it, and trying to eat better, and being a role model for my boys, my 3 sons, and now I walk around the house when I see them. We live in different places now because they're adults, but when they see me now, they're like, man, dad's getting jacked. And
Yeah.
man, but that sends a message to them. You don't realize, if you have kids, you don't realize how much they're watching you, right? They're looking at you, right? And they're they're taking cues off of you. So I realized that I wasn't always the best role model. I really let myself go, and I did not make my health and fitness a priority. But now that I do, I see my boys just kind of doing it as well. They're taking the same steps that I'm taking to bring weights into the house, to make an effort to exercise a little bit every day, 50 push-ups a day. So for my kids, I've just realized what a powerful influence I've always been, good or bad. And now I'm really making a conscious effort to be a much more positive influence on their life, and the fitness, my diet and my exercise is a big part of that. And I see it; it's working. They're making changes too. So not only do I feel good, I'm looking better than I have in a very, very long time. At 53 years old, it feels good to look in the mirror and go, "Damn, you look better than you did when you were in your 30s and 40s." But
Yeah.
once again, man, I'm working hard for it. I mean, this has been a 3-year commitment. Virtually every day. I make my diet a priority every day and exercise virtually every day. 5, 6 days a week.
Yeah, same here. But it's funny you say that because so 50 push-ups a day on a 30-day thing is 1,500 push-ups. So it's like you want to talk about small inputs of what they equal out to. Well, when you so say you do that for even 90 days, that's 6,500 push-ups,
Yeah,
right?
and
Or
remember, I'm not.
excuse me, sorry. That's 4,500 push-ups in 90 days on 50 a day. And what is 4,500 push-ups? Think about that input to your body alone,
Yeah,
right? Like,
and
what's that?
yeah, yeah. Let's be clear. The upper body strength, your triceps, just your whole upper body, and that's as a man, just physically, that's where we feel strong, right? Our upper body. So that was transformative. 50 push-ups a day, and for anybody listening, let me reiterate: I'm not saying get down and knock out 50 push-ups. I'm saying from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, knock out 50 push-ups. You want to get down to 5 at a time, 10 different times, do it.
Yeah.
But for me, I just realized not long after adopting that, okay, I'm going to do 50 push-ups a day. It might have been a few weeks or whatever, but I'm like, wow, I'm actually feeling different in a very good way. And then I started to look different, not just feel different, but look different. It's like, wow, very transformative. And again, that goes back to that D1 coach at ASU giving that advice to his wrestler who, as the story ends, came back the next year, senior year, and was a champion. And I'm sure there was way more things that went into it than just 50 push-ups a day, but that was the coach's advice. Go home, do 50 push-ups a day. And I thought, how achievable for anybody to do 50 push-ups a day. So a very achievable fitness goal. Having gone through it and experienced it and still living it today, I can say it was transformative. It's the word I would use.
Yeah. And I would also say, look at the example you've now set and the after remarks, like you were saying, like with now your kids being involved in and taking their health as like you were saying, all beneficial, dude. And you know what it is? I think that's the coolest thing about that is it teaches you discipline. 50 a day is it's teaching you to keep your words, your commitments to yourself, right? And
Yeah.
that's how many times as people, as men especially, do we short ourselves on keeping our promises to ourselves. We
Yeah.
might be about 100 on everybody else, but when it comes to taking care of us, miss, 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 miss. So
Well,
50 a
I'll
day
tell
is just a commitment, man.
I, that's kind of a regret from my career. I was so invested in my career, so invested in the job that I let my health and fitness kind of go after a while. I did an Ironman in 2005. That was 34 years old, I believe, at the time. And then right after that, I finished the Ironman and I went back to school to get my degree and then pretty much let my fitness go for the rest of my career. And that's one of my biggest regrets. Like I said, I had access to world-class fitness equipment in every fire station in the city every single day of my career, but I just let myself go. And man, I retired really just physically unhealthy, emotionally just cooked, like I said. So I had to regain my physical strength, regain a good, healthy, emotional outlook. And it's taken me a little while to get there, still committed to it, still working through it, but definitely in a great place today at 53 years old.
An Iron Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a monster.
Yeah. So do you know what the Ironman is? Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's what is it, 3 mile swim? Is that right? Or one
It,
mile?
it's a triathlon, right? It's a sport of
Yeah.
triathlon, but the Ironman is a reference to the distance. The Ironman is a reference to the distance of each event. So it's a 2.4 mile swim, 112-mile
Marathon.
bike, and then a marathon, 26.2
Yeah.
mile run. So
That's insane.
2.4 mile swim, 112-mile bike, and then go run a marathon. It was 13 hours. My Ironman was a 13 hours. So imagine doing cardio for 13 hours, right? I couldn't imagine doing an Ironman today. It seems like so long ago somebody else did it, but it took me a little while. I was in a motorcycle accident in 2002, broke my leg, took me out of work for a little while. And when I came back from that, one of the first things I did was go run a marathon. And me and my crew decided, when I came back to work, my crew and I decided we were going to go to San Diego, run the Rock and Roll Marathon. So I wasn't a runner. And here I came back from a broken leg and started training to run a marathon. So we ran a marathon, and one of the guys in my crew is just a savage. And we went and did another marathon and then another one. And then he said, "You want to do an Ironman?" I'm like, "No fucking way. I don't want to go do an Ironman." And then he goes, "Come on, do it with me. Do it with me. Come on, let's go." So I'm like, "I don't even do triathlons, let alone an Ironman." So he said, "Well, let's start doing triathlons." So we jumped in and started doing triathlons, and then signed up for this Ironman, which I just thought was off the charts crazy. And, a couple of years later, it took a couple of years really to achieve that level of fitness. But that was kind of the pinnacle for me at 34 years old. And then, I just let things go after that. And just the job took over, the career took over. And I just, my priority in my life was the job. So it's a huge regret of mine. A couple of things. That a huge regret that I let my fitness go, and my family too a little bit. I kind of, the job was my most important thing in my life, especially when I became the fire chief. It was like so absorbed by all the responsibility of that job that kind of put everybody else second fiddle. Big regret. Are we talking about regrets today? If we are, I'll share that, right? A little bit of a regret, So I'm trying to get all that back, trying to get my fitness back, making my wife and my kids a priority, being more present. Being more present is definitely a life goal for me at this stage right now.
Yeah. Well, right on. I think, dude, and it sounds like you're doing that. And I mean, what an incredible story that you have. And that's only touching bits and pieces of your life, I know, but like just in a highlight reel, like what a thing to say that you've accomplished. And again, a testimony to your self-awareness, like realizing where you're missing, right? Like that comes back to the very beginning of this conversation, like being able to examine yourself, take a look at yourself, self-assess, if you will, and then address, like being the key part.
Yeah.
And that's phenomenal. Well, listen, we've been going for an hour and 25 minutes. So what I want to do is ask you a couple questions, if that's cool. Because I could talk to you all day, to be honest with you, Paul. But I'm sure you have other things to do today. So let me pull up your outline here. So I want to go because you had kind of already talked about this. Your favorite position as a firefighter was the battalion chief. But what was like in being a firefighter, what was your favorite part of that?
The camaraderie, the kitchen table. You get to the station in the morning, and the off-going crew leaves, and your crew shows up, and you're just kind of reconnecting with everybody. And man, I just got to work with such fun people, great people, and the camaraderie that we developed. I did a 25-year career, but there's bits and pieces where you just had the right chemistry with the right people. You can relate, I'm sure, in the Marine Corps, right? Where that group that you worked with was special, and so there's little there's segments of 5 or 6 years where it was just everything was perfect, everything was great. So the camaraderie in the fire service, I miss that. I miss the guys and the gals, and we just used to have such a good time together, supporting each other, taking care of each other. When you experience bad things together, those it brings you closer, right? So when you see tragic things or experience these things, I know the military is the same way. You go through these hard times together, it brings you closer. So, you just forge really strong bonds with the people that you worked with, and still have great relationships today. A lot of my brothers and sisters from the fire service come to my gigs now to see the band play, and I've actually got two other guys in the band are firefighters too. So we have a great following of our former firefighter buddies, and but the camaraderie of the fire service is what I miss the most. That was the highlight, and I think that's one of the things that you get out of a fire service career, just by virtue of the work environment. You work in a team of four. So, different than law enforcement where you're on patrol by yourself. You're kind of a single person. Other officers working around the city too, but everybody's in a vehicle by themselves. Whereas on a fire truck, you got four people. And a lot of the fire stations I worked in, there was two rigs. So now you got four people and four people. So now you got a crew of 8 people. So it's a fraternal type work environment, very much like the military. And that was really the highlight, was getting to work around other great people and having a good time when you go to work.
Yeah. So moving right along on this kind of parlays, but so how could, if somebody wanted to experience that for themselves, or anybody that's looking at firefighting or becoming a firefighter as a career outside of the wildland, but more in the structural sense,
Sure.
how can someone get, where would you start? How do you get
Yeah.
involved? And I know you talked about you could do the ride alongs, so we don't need to recover that part, but how do I become a firefighter, Paul?
Yeah. I think if you've got some fire departments that you're interested in, usually the community that you live in. But again, most of the country is volunteer, so it's not within reach for everybody. But if you live or work around an area where you've got paid fire departments and you are looking to into this as a career, I'd say start with their webpage. Go to the website of that municipality, of that jurisdiction that you're interested in, and also don't limit yourself to one or two jurisdictions. Like I said, when I was testing in the Phoenix Valley, there's 34 cities or so in the Phoenix region, so a lot of different cities to test with. But start with their website and look at what programs they might have to integrate or otherwise learn about that agency. So many fire departments have volunteer programs where you can kind of get a foot in the door. Others might have paid positions within their departments. Maybe you're doing some public education as a paid member. Maybe you're driving an ambulance as a paid member. So depends on the organization, but start with the website, and then be bold. Be bold and introduce yourself. I mean, go to a fire station, introduce yourself. Go meet the fire chief if they'll let you. But be bold and find a way to connect with people from that organization, and tell them straight up, I want to become a firefighter for your organization. What is it you're looking for? And then do that dozens of times with dozens of people, and keep doing it until you know what they're looking for, till you figured it out. And then you got to start taking the testing processes, which is going to include physical agility tests. So you've got to prepare, obviously, for that. And at some point, you're going to have to sit in front of an oral board and talk to human beings. And this is a real challenge for young people these days. I feel like I don't know what it is, and I don't even want to pretend to have the answer, but you're probably seeing what I'm seeing. But young people these days are lacking communication skills. So
Desperately.
young people need to make a deliberate effort to become better at talking publicly, to talking out loud, talking about yourself. One of the things I realized when I was young, they said, well, you got to talk about yourself. You got to be comfortable talking about yourself and what skills you bring to the table, what skills you possess. Well, if you don't possess any skills, you got to go develop some.
You got to go get them. Yes.
You got to do a self-assessment and you've got to look at who you are and what your purpose in life is, and what you're doing, and you might have to make some really fundamental changes to the human being that you are, and and go out and find those things, do those things, So um, doesn't matter what job you're working today, you can find find elements within that job, that position, that are relatable to the fire service. So there's a lot of work to be done, but you have to start by connecting yourself to the people that are already there, the people who have already made it, and ask questions. You have to be bold. You've got to be aggressive. They're not going to come to you. They're not going to come to you. And I think that's what a lot of young people are looking for today. They're more passive. They're not aggressive in their approach, and they just think success is going to find them. And when it doesn't find them, they're becoming more entitled, right?
Yeah.
They want the government to take care of them. They want other people to give them what they need, whether it's money or security. But you got to go out and fight for it, man. You got to go out and make it happen.
I mean, on that, I think you got to almost, and this is for anything. I won't speak to a firefighter because I wasn't a firefighter, but I think you need to audit yourself along what you're saying and say, how can I be an asset?
Yeah.
Am I an asset to these people? When you're talking about what skills do you bring to the table? Well, how are you an asset? Are you a leader? Are you a strong communicator? Do you have good work ethic? Are you disciplined? Are you tough? Are you timely? All these things matter. Can you look somebody in their eyes when you speak to them? Can you execute in chaos? Because, let's be real. For guys like you and I, chaos becomes second nature. That's almost where you're more comfortable operating in an emergency. It just becomes that. But if you don't possess those skills, to your point, how can I become an asset today? And that should be your thing. Stacks, and I'm not in it for the awards necessarily, Paul, but stacks of undeniable proof. You can picture this magazine, and for our audience that's looking, I got the hunting rigs for Oregon, but we're just going to pretend that this is a stack of paper. And what this is this stack of paper is stacks of undeniable proof, in the sense that for skill sets, for being an asset, you need to have a stack of things that you are capable of, right? In front of you, a resume, if you will. And to my comment earlier about showing up to compete, that's all I mean. It doesn't mean that it necessarily has to be to beat down somebody else or to do this or that. It means that you show up every day to make yourself the most dynamic player or individual that you can. And for your career, dude, with the fire thing and what you were just suggesting for people getting into fire, I think that if they can answer that question, how am I an asset, right? Or any career, how am I an asset? That's where, outside of checking their website, that's what you can do to kind of self-audit yourself. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. You got to take a self-inventory. What skills do I possess? What skills do I still require to be successful moving forward? And identify that gap, the gap analysis, right? Here's where I'm at. Here's where I need to be. I got a lot of work on that middle stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And then one of my favorite questions to ask people, dude, and just keeping this train going, and I'm curious to see how you answer this, is what is one of the hardest lessons you've had to learn yet?
One of the hardest lessons I've had to learn. I would say, I think I alluded to it earlier, being present and being available. My career always commanded my attention and my focus. And the people that suffered were my wife, my kids. And I didn't have the ability to shut it off, especially as the fire chief. It was 24/7, glued to my phone. Anytime there was a problem, I'm getting a phone call. And I think this happens to a lot of men and women where they're just so absorbed in their career. So I'd say being present, being present for the people that I'm talking to. I'm present with you now. I'm very present with you now, right? Very engaged in our conversation. I'm listening to you. And I'm a better listener today than I've probably ever been, and more present, more present than I've probably ever been. by virtue of a very deliberate effort to be more present, be more in the moment with the people that I'm working with currently. You know, my career just pulled me away and commanded so much of my attention. But I would say that I'm trying to be more present for everybody in my life.
Yeah. No. So it it's funny you say that because for me, like the off switch, right? Like these stupid little devices we have today,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
they keep us so connected, like that. Sometimes we forget to, like you said, tune into a conversation or to. We don't even know how to communicate with the person sitting right next to us. I can
for
almost
sure.
text somebody and have a real, more in depth conversation than I could sitting down across the dinner
Yeah,
table from my wife.
yeah.
And no, man, that's a great lesson to share with people to learn.
Back to basics, back to the basics of communication, right?
That's it.
Listening, being present, being available, and not allowing my mind to be somewhere else, to be thinking about the next thing, but rather be thinking about the thing that we're talking about right now.
That's it.
Yeah,
And that's a trick, but I think that that's a really valuable thing to share with people to, as far as a lesson. I mean, 25 years, all the different things that you accomplished within that career. Now your hunting career as arguably not just getting started, but as a guide getting started, right? And all these different things. It's really important with your time that you know how to manage it and be present with whatever you're doing in those moments. Even on your band stuff, right? Like on your
yep,
country rock thing.
yep, yep,
It's
yep.
it's
Whatever,
allotting yourself
yeah,
the time.
whatever I'm doing in the moment, I'm engaged and focused on that with the people that I'm with. And that includes, time with my wife, just sitting down having, I could be on my phone the whole time. You're hanging out with your wife, but I'm not. I put it away, just like you said, turn that little device off, being present, being available. And
Yeah,
so to answer your question, not being present and not being available, not being in the moment was one of the biggest, I forget what you asked, challenges or problems, right? Yeah.
yeah, yes, that's exactly it. All right, and then I got to ask you, man. This is the pinnacle question of the show. Um, and when I think of, like, especially in the workplace, what a barbarian would look like, your career kind of reminds me of that, just constant growth. But I got to know to you from Paul's definition, the bougie Paul, bourgeois, right? I want to know what is a barbarian to you, brother?
Barbarian to me is someone who doesn't ask permission, who takes
Ooh,
what they want. They take what they want. And, yeah, a savage,
yeah,
you know, take what you want. You don't ask permission. You'll get what you want and you take it.
yeah. It's conquer. I recently had a guest on. You'll appreciate this. I asked them what would their definition of a barbarian, and they come from a special forces background and the tip of the spear kind of thing. And he said, I pictured that giant monster just walking through the trenches, just trudging and taking arrows, and those arrows are life. And no matter what, he's going to capture that hill, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and for a visual, like
yeah,
when you're saying that doesn't ask for permission, I picture like that being that just it's go. And when
yeah,
it's time to send it, you send it. And
yep,
it's I'll worry about the repercussions later, but right now I'm on mission, right?
sure.
Like so. No, I love that answer, man.
I like that analogy.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
it really spoke to me when he said that because I can literally picture like this just big
yeah,
mythical, like especially in our where we come from, our
yeah,
careers, we work with knuckle draggers, right? It's just
for sure.
it's just that guy that won't get knocked down.
Yeah,
That no matter what you throw at him, no matter what arrows he's got to take, there's a hill and he's going to take it. But
yeah,
so help me God,
yeah.
you know. Um, dude, I got to know because we're at the part where we get into closing thoughts and stuff like that. Before I ask you what closing thoughts you might have or what wisdom you might want to leave our audience with, I do want to know, do you have a book suggestion and or a quote, something that spoke to you over all these years of growth and things that you've done?
One of my favorite quotes. I wore it around my neck for a number of years on a dog tag, actually, especially during my Ironman and triathlon years. Was don't give up, don't ever give up. And that was Jimmy Valvano, North Carolina State coach from the 1980s. Don't give up, don't ever give up. And I think that really captures a lot of aspects of my life too. A lot of things that I've been through and have had to work for. I didn't give up. I've never given up. And I love that quote. My one of my boys actually has that tattooed on his chest. So it means something to him too. And me embracing that philosophy meant something to him as well. So as far as a book, I'm reading right now for the second time. I'm trying to regain control of my money and my finances. We've all, I think so many people have fallen victim to conventional wisdoms of mutual funds and 401ks. And quite frankly, I think all that's bullshit. I think everybody on Wall Street's a crook. And I think this whole traditional or conventional way of setting workers and employees up to invest money in 401k is a lot of bullshit, honestly. If you know someone who got wealthy or rich on mutual funds, I'd really like to meet them, but I just don't think it happens. I'm just taking a whole different approach now to my money and what I'm going to do with my money from here on out, and also how I can pass that legacy down. So I'm reading a book for the second time called Becoming Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash. It's a whole different philosophy, a concept of how to manage your money, especially to create generational wealth. And when I read the book for the first time, I asked myself, do I wish my father had been doing this stuff, these principles that I learned in this book? Do I wish my father had been doing this? And the answer was quite emphatically yes. I wish he had. Yeah. So with that answer in mind, I thought I need to start doing this for my kids, my grandkids, and that generation. So very interesting read. It's a whole different way of thinking about money. It's a whole different concept about where to put your money and how to use your money. It's led me into another venture now where I'm actually loaning money. So I'm kind of getting in the private lending business a little bit and lending money to other business people. And it's just changing my course a little bit. So Becoming Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash is where I'm at right now.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. Anybody that is looking at becoming their own asset financially, especially, is that's just wisdom to be imparted. And I think you nailed it on the head, dude. The traditional or the conventional way of doing it, it's just set up so that you can continue to be a tax base. I mean, it's
no doubt.
A spade.
No
That's
doubt.
What it is.
And the people managing your money, the Wall Street people, not your advisor, but the people on Wall Street, the whole system has been rigged to benefit them, not us.
Yeah.
That's the world according to Paul.
Hey, listen, Paul, we're on the same world. Unfortunately, it might be clown world, but we agree. We do agree. I got a book that I suggest this to a lot of people, but just in hearing your story, I think it would speak to you if you haven't already read it. But it's The Magic of Thinking Big by Dr. David Schwartz. And it just talks about big ambitions and big dreams and why you don't settle and why you go after that. And I just think you'd appreciate it just knowing your story.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so we're at that point, dude, where we've covered 25 years, well, as briefly as you can in an hour, right? We've covered 25 years of just a barbaric fighter career, excuse me. I got tongue twisted there for a second. And then we started talking about your business and about starting over and forgiving yourself and allowing yourself to kind of step into a new purpose, which is also incredible. And I commend you for that. I want you to take a second here. We only got a couple minutes left, but I want you to take a minute and kind of plug Precision Rifle Supply. Just tell people where they can find you, what that is, and then close us out with anything that you want to leave the audience with, please.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So my hunting business right now, long range rifles predominantly, and other accessories, hunting accessories. Precision Hunting Supply. We're based out of Mesa, Arizona, but we serve customers nationwide. I just had just a few days ago, we had 6 guys from Florida fly in for shooting lessons. So I kind of have that happen on a pretty regular basis. So we serve a nationwide customer base for sure. My band is called Pilgrim's Rider. So if anybody's in the Arizona area, we gig all over the state. So Pilgrim's Rider, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. Same with the business, Precision Hunting Supply, Facebook and Instagram. Look us up online. We're on YouTube as well. And final closing thoughts, I'm going to go back to your book suggestion. Think big. I've never limited myself to thinking I can't do something or I can't achieve something. And I feel like I've, you know, maybe not taken on the biggest goals in the world, but I've definitely taken on some ambitious endeavors that require a focused effort and energy, consistent energy. And in that regard, I like to think big. That'd be my little words of wisdom, and work hard. Go for it. Be the barbarian.
That's it. Think big and work hard.
Don't ask permission. Go take what you want. Go take it. I tell you, the world is going to lend itself to the barbarians in the future because there's just too many soft people anymore. People not willing to work. This entitlement generation we've already spoke of. I think you have fewer and fewer human beings willing to work hard. So those that do work hard, the future is going to favor them. The future is going to favor barbarians.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Opportunity is not going to wait either. It's going to be the hungry eat, and the rest of
Yeah.
the world starves. Whoever doesn't want it's not going to get it.
Right. Right.
And I hope if you're listening to this show, that includes you. I hope you're going to be the hungry, and I hope you're going to eat because the world needs a shark right now. It needs a lot of sharks. And I can't believe I'm saying that because fuck sharks. But, the world needs sharks. It's time for you to step into who you're supposed to be. And more importantly, it's just to set an example, folks. Like, become the legend that you wish you had, the thing that you wish you could look up to. That's what you should leave as your legacy. But Paul, dude, first of all, thank you for 25 years of your service to your community, dude, but for real, to this nation, and to like just living a life of in service, dude. I'm nothing but the utmost respect for you with that. And my heart goes out to all of our firefighters. Obviously, being a veteran, you guys are our brothers too. And we love you guys to death. So I really appreciate that. And then, dude, if there's ever anything I can do for you, I'm sure I'm going to reach out to you offline and pick your brain, all sort precision rifle stuff, because I love what you're doing there. And I think it's incredible what you've built and how you just won't let yourself sleep. Like, I like it. There's no rest for the wicked, is I believe is how the phrase goes. And man, I just really appreciate your time today and sharing your story. This is a platform for people that want to win, and that's why you're here. Because everything about your life says, let's go, let's win, we don't take no, we're just go. And so, dude, respect, barbarian to barbarian, a lot of respect. I appreciate you greatly. And,
same to you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I look forward to getting to know you, continuing to get to know you, and for what the future holds. We'll have to have you on again for a hunt update.
Sounds good. Thanks, man.
All right.
Appreciate you.
To our barbarians, we'll talk to you on the next one.
All right. Thanks.